If you're going to recruit an elite class in College Football 26 Dynasty, visits have to play a large role. And EA promised us some serious changes to visits. But what changes actually occurred? Because yes, we can now see that visits have a dynamic cost, which is super cool, and it's really nice that a lot of the times it's not going to be 40 hours. But what about the effectiveness of a visit? Well, after a full season of a controlled experiment with 27 different recruits at Kentucky, I can tell you that the effectiveness of a visit has not changed at all. The single biggest driver of how successful a visit is still going to be whether you win the game. When we win, we saw a massive increase in the number of pixels that the recruit's bar moved when you compared it to 25 hours of friends and family the week before. Yes, we are measuring pixels of the bar again here. So for all 27 recruits, we did the same 25 hours of friends and family, saw how much that bar moved, and then compared it to their visit. When you convert this to a percentage, it's even crazier. When the recruit was on a visit where we won that game, it was almost 3 times as effective as just 25 hours of friends and family alone. And just like last year, both bye-week visits and losses were not nearly as effective. In fact, I really think that our losses, which we had 8 different recruits of data on, those losses had such a small bump that I wouldn't be surprised if they came just from the bump that comes from the scholarship alone. Now, what's different from this year and last year is that I actually think that bye-week visits are somewhat viable. If you look, that black bar represents the median impact compared to the 25 hours of friends and family. So it was like 15 to 20% less effective than the 25 hours of friends and family on average. But also, again, those visits don't always cost 25 hours. Most of the time for you, they're going to cost less. And we did see instances where bye-week visits were straight up more effective than 25 hours of friends and family. Now, why was it sometimes more effective and other times not as effective? Well, your first guess is probably going to be that visit grade, which is the letter grade of the one action that we get to pick that the recruit does on the visit. Now, when you just look at the visit grade and then that absolute pixel difference, which again is how much better in terms of raw number of pixels the visit was than 25 hours of friends and family, it doesn't look like there's any relationship at all here, right? If that blue line is the line of best fit, it doesn't look that an A+ visit grade is going to be any more or less effective than an F visit grade. But what if we split that into 3 different categories? Up top, we have all of the recruits that visited when we won the game. The orange one at the bottom are all of the losses, and those green dots with the green line of best fit are the bye-week visits. And what's very interesting here is when you no longer have the random variations of winning or losing, the relationship is pretty clear that the better the visit grade, the more impactful the bye-week visit is. Now, that shouldn't be rocket science, right? Like an A+ on this thing that we're selecting is probably going to be more successful than an F. But it's good confirmation that it does seem to matter. Now, I do want to call out that this is completely different from the transfer portal visits. If you haven't seen the news about it, as of me filming this right now, they're useless. I actually tried it at the end of this experiment. I had to throw away those 8 recruits because there was 0 impact whatsoever from a visit in the transfer portal, no matter what. Now, I've seen some people say that bye-week visits are the same thing in the regular season, and I would strongly disagree with that based off of this data. I mean, hopefully Editor Max will throw a pair of screenshots of this one recruit who did have an A+ visit grade, but he visited on a bye week, and I'm telling you straight up, it was more effective than 25 hours of friends and family. In fact, not only do I think the visit grade matters for bye weeks, but check out what happens if we split this out into the 7 different weeks where we had visits in general. Now we're seeing something cool. So those 3 top chunks, we see that red chunk, the green chunk, and the brown chunk, those are the 3 different times where we actually had people come on a visit and we won the game. Now that red chunk is especially high up there because that was where I did a force win against a ranked Florida team and we blew them out. So there was all sorts of extra bonuses on top of the regular win. The green one was a win against a lower tier D1 school, and the brown one was a win against an FCS school. So it's exactly as we would expect. But what's interesting is when you only look at the 4 people that visited that week, it is pretty clear that just like for bye weeks, a higher visit grade is going to be more successful. Now, just as a bonus, I do want to say, don't look at the number of arrows on the little visit summary. What you're seeing here is the number of pixels that the bar moved on the visit compared to the number of arrows. And yes, there's some correlation here, but it is not a perfect science, okay? 6 arrows is not nearly as much as 4 arrows. It's like a helpful little thing to look at, but I'm telling you, I saw times where it said 0 arrows for some reason, and it was a super successful visit. But okay, bonus chart aside, how can we actually use this information to recruit better in college football 26? Well, I have 2 tips. The first one is the exact same as last year, which is the top goal when you schedule a visit should be scheduling a visit for games where you actually have a chance at winning. At the end of the day, no matter how good your school grades are, no matter how much you love the recruit, nothing matters if you don't win that game. Maybe that might even impact your scheduling, where maybe you might selectively put, lower tier schools or beatable schools in week 4 or 5. That way, right before you start conference play, you could have a couple of home games where you can get people on visits. Because you're not going to get people on week 0 visits when you host some random 2-star school, but maybe you can get them on week 3 or 4. That's definitely something I'm going to try and be more mindful of having beatable games in my non-conference slate later into the season, whether it's weeks 3 or 4, or sometimes when you have a random opening in like week 11 or 12, get a bad team on there, host them, and that's a great time to have people come and visit. The second tip, which is different from last year, is I'm fine scheduling visits on bye weeks. Obviously, I would much rather schedule a visit on a game where I can win, but if I had to pick between a recruit coming to my school when I have to host Georgia or having them come the week after when I could just hang out with the recruit one-on-one, I think given the low cost of visits and how most of the time you're scheduling visits for 10, 15, or 20 hours, I think it's worth it on bye weeks, especially because most of you all don't even really care if a visit is more or less effective than 25 hours. In a lot of cases, especially for top recruits, that's not the question that you and I are even asking. The question is, do visits do anything? Because we're at 50 out of 50 hours allocated to the recruit, and we still need help to fight off the Georgias of the world. And if that's the situation you're in, yeah, bye-week visits are gonna be fine. Now, I hope in a couple months this video is totally wrong, because I don't know about you, I just don't think that the single most important thing about a visit should be whether or not you win the game. But that's more of me raising my hand and politely asking EA to rethink how they view the visit logic as a whole. But until that happens, right now, the only thing that we could do is schedule visits on games where we can win, use bye weeks if you have to, and if the cost of the visit isn't too much. And until that bug gets fixed, don't use transfer portal visits at all. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out.